David, you are now an author. You weren't always an author. So take us back a little bit so that we understand your sort of process of reinvention. What did you used to do?
Originally, I used to build warehouses for large blue chip companies like Dixon's or DHL, million square feet, make a building happen in terms of the IT, the build, the people, over 6 months, and spend 50 million pounds and reporting to the directors that it's happening, it's on time and it's to budget.
So it's like a project management role. You had to kind of pull everything together. I
pulled everyone together within a project, and fundamentally I was paid £800 a day to make it happen. And if I failed day by day, you were out of a job. It was that stressful.
Okay, so plenty of pressure, good money.
Great money,
lots
great
of travel.
lifestyle. I was travelling around the world. I was in places like Cambodia, near the killing fields. I was all over the UK. I was on a plane, and I thought it was great fun because every weekend I had a second home because of the trappings of luxury in Spain. I'd jump on a plane from any airport, EasyJet, Ryanair, and go over to Spain to my second home. I thought this was quite clever, but actually it was exhausting looking back.
And what were the consequences in terms of your home life? Because obviously being away a lot can have negative consequences.
What happened over about 10 years was that I ceased to know my wife, and we grew apart. And I never saw my son, who, when I left home and created this new life as an author, was only 8 years old. But it wasn't walking away from old life, it was walking into a new life that was important, because I had this burning desire and hundreds of notes about book ideas, and I built these up for 10 years previously, since I had my midlife crisis. So I planned to change my life substantially and made sure that all my plans were in place before I jumped.
But can I take you back slightly, because I'm sure you told me that you always wanted to be an author from the age of about 13. So
yes.
What stopped you pursuing that ambition when you were younger? Did life get in the way?
I suppose, like everyone, you think you know what you want to do at 18. I went off to university to do geography and geology. It was the wrong thing. I then did a degree in textiles. It was the wrong thing. And I think you can actually reinvent yourself 3 or 4 times in life. And sometime you come back to what you wanted to be. So at 50, I came back to what I wanted to be at 13. And I'd always strive for a simple life. I always wanted to be an author. I was inspired by my English teacher, and I'd always put that in the back of my mind, and eventually I realised I needed to do it.
So can you talk us through the actual process of reinvention? What actually happened when you started this new path?
So what I did was I took myself and my car, and I took my possessions, and I minimised that to whatever could fit in my car. So the essential things: a push bike, some clothes, and a hi-fi. That's all I had in my car, and I drove off on bonfire night in 2007 to Spain, to my second home, with the minimum of possessions, and that in itself gave me a great sense of motivation to start the new life, because I'd cleaned out the old, and I knew I was going to be an author. And to be an author, you need to be slightly bohemian, I thought. But when you end up at the end of the 2-year period in Spain, and you have no possessions and very little money, it's actually quite demanding, because it's stressful. However, the stress then lent me to be more inspired in the way that I was writing. And the motivation dramatically increased, because I always thought less is more, and I also thought you can't buy time. So I changed my life on the basis that tomorrow might never come, and I needed less to live this simple life. So that was the objective. Hard to do because people are in a rut.
Yes. But you said that you thought that authors need to be a little bit bohemian. did you come to the point where you realised, well, hang on a minute, I've got no money, I need to survive. In order to do my thing, I still need an income. Did you become more businesslike after a while?
I came back to the UK to promote my first book. So I badged up a caravan with the title of the first book, The Sun Shower, and I went around the whole of the UK, and I went through different regions. Every Monday I would move. So when I was sat in Newcastle and Durham and that area, and I'd called the Angel of the North Tichy, and the local newspaper had picked up on it and interviewed me and taken photographs. What happened, I realised that I had £173 in the bank, a caravan and a Spanish car, and that's all I had in life. And I thought, now I need to get a proper job, because I'm trying to be an author. I've written 3 books. I'm still not a bestseller. I'm still not getting sufficient income. So I was insecure. And then the Sunday Observer picked up on the book. I had my little bit of magic fairy dust. And because they said it was a top 10 summer read, then my sales increased and I had enough income to survive. But you know, when you're at that survival point, you still have hospitals, you still have schools, you still have roads and cars. I mean, we think when we're down to the bare minimum that is truly daunting, whereas in fact you can go well beyond that if you want to live your dream. You can actually make things happen on a budget, on a shoestring. And that's what I did. When I was spending 7 pence on a postcard or 1 penny on a business card, I was very careful how I used them. I was very focused in my marketing to get the most back for the money that I spent, and also my time, even though I was working 24 hours a day.
Tell me a little bit more about this, what sounds like a roadshow. You know, how did you engage with the local community? How did you build momentum for your book and your ideas?
So when I knew I was going into the Newcastle area, what I would do is I would send a press release to the relevant person within the media. So that would be newspapers, the arts, the events correspondent. I would send something to the local radio stations, not just BBC, Real, Smooth, anyone who broadcast in that area. And I would tell them my story. And my story by then had developed because of a chance encounter with a Kent newspaper and their TV coverage team. And that they called me the riches to rags author. And that badge stuck everywhere I went, through 50 different newspapers, 9 different BBC radio programmes. It was the riches to rags author. And I used that in a way to market myself and my book.
Yes.
Because I kept coming back to the themes in the book. Less is more, you can't buy time. And that emphasised and amplified what I'd written about 3 years earlier.
Yes. But was the stuff that you were writing, was it actually linked to your own story then, this idea of less is more, you can't buy time? Was that a theme you explored in the literature that you were producing?
The literature, the themes in the book were what I'd experienced over 40 years, and things that mentors in business had told me. Keep it super simple. And it's true, when you divest yourself of all these extras, when you actually turn the radio and the TV off in the morning, it allows you to think. When you actually go and live in Spain and sit on a patio with a beautiful view in the sea, and you listen to the birds and watch the snakes crawling across the ground in front of you, you actually realise that you can think when you're not in that mad, crazy world that we call life.
Sure. I've come across many people, and it's a view I kind of agree with, who say that there's too much of everything these days in the modern world. Are you sort of proposing that we think differently about what we need, and that, you know, the less is more principle?
I'm saying at some stage, look at what you're doing and stop. And just don't think you have to be on your computer. Don't think you need the TV. Don't think you need to jump in the car. Don't fill in time, because I think we all fill in time, and then we feel safe and comfortable when we are filling in time, because there's no time to think. And if you start to think, it might be that people will be a bit more like myself, where I was thinking too much maybe, and that's why I wanted to pour out all these thoughts into a work of literature. But you said about the autobiographical aspect. I'd read about books being fictional autobiography, and therefore that's what I created. So 10% of my books were based on truth, but 90% was amplified, and it's that amplification that can then also cause issues with everyone who's known you for 40 years. So all my old friends thought I was crazy, and after they read the book, the vast majority dumped me, because the ultimate indulgence in vanity is when you think you're in someone's book. In fact, you're not.
I was going to ask you that question about what people who used to know you think of you now, whether you're still in touch, whether you've severed links or they've severed links with you.
Everything initially meant that I severed links with them, because I ran away to become an author and live in Spain and write books. So when I came back, we'd all moved on. I'd been through catharsis. I'd changed completely, because I realised more and more what was important to me in life. Not necessarily to everyone, but because I'd bought my time. You can't buy time. I'd bought my time by running away. And because I had so little in life, I'd become a new me. They were still following the same process and procedure, the same day-to-day, the same people that they talked to every day. So I grew away from them. So by the time I came back with the promotional tour, they didn't want to know me. And then of course, when they read the book, The Ultimate Vanity, is they saw themselves in the book. Which is crazy, because they weren't in the book, but part of their character once in a blue moon had been taken, and I'd used it and amplified it and changed it.
Yes. It's a theme we explore a lot in Mojo Life, about the fact that people who hear stories actually take something from them and personalise them. They see themselves in the story, but not necessarily in the way that the storyteller would anticipate.
That is absolutely correct. I have emails from people in America and Australia who've read my books, and they take what they want out of a book. I didn't realise that 5 years ago when I started. They read between the lines. They apply whichever part of the book applies to them and their lives and their thoughts. And then they were feeding it back to me, saying, your book's great because. Sometimes some people would tell me how the book affected them, and I thought they must have been reading a different book. That's how crazy life is.
So just kind of moving to a close, David, tell us a little bit about where you are now with the book sales, and where you are as an author in a kind of a business sense. How's that going?
In a business sense, I've become a success, and in a literary sense, you have to be part of the clique. You have to be part of the publishing world. So therefore, you have to have a backstory. Riches to rags author. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to have something that's exciting and interesting.
Why is the backstory so important in you being singled out or standing out from others who write?
Well, my latest book, The Ebb and Flow, is historical fiction, and without my backstory, the publisher wouldn't have taken a second look at the manuscript, because they only take 2 or 3 chapters, and they have to judge the book, and they judge the book in the first few paragraphs. And so if you say, I've been #1 in hardback romance, and this is my new story, then they listen. And without a backstory, they don't listen. Because you have to be something astonishing and unique, and then you have to be even luckier to actually be read.
So the backstory actually adds a lot of credence to the quality of the work that you're producing, because you can't just be judged on the work alone. It's got to be set in the context of where you've come from, the journey that you're on, how you got to where you are now.
The media pick up on the backstory. J.K. Rowling has a fantastic backstory. For years she had piles of books that weren't picked up on, and then she had some magic fairy dust, and someone liked the book. And it's finding that someone who likes the book. And in reality with books, it's word of mouth sells them. You can advertise radio, newspapers, magazines, it makes no difference whatsoever. I tried it. I spent £700 on an advert on the Bookseller magazine. I took the rear cover. The sales didn't increase. No sales increase in 2 months. I've tried advertising in newspapers. No difference whatsoever. I've even tried radio adverts. It makes no difference. What you need is people to love the book. You need people to identify with the themes, and then that book will sell.
But it's a theme we come across a lot in Mojo Life, where businesses feel that just by telling people what they do and that they're really good at what they do and we do quality work, that'll be enough to get them noticed. But people need to know also, what mission you're on and how you've come to what you do now. An element of the backstory.
The backstory, everything comes from within. I have a backstory. I have a book which touches the things that people want, and you have to put that together, and then you market it in a way that touches people in their hearts, not in their minds. And then if you can touch them in their hearts, which is what we've done with the Ebb and Flow, it's about how the English bought North Wales and the Welsh fight back. Well, the people in North Wales are buying the book because it's Braveheart for the Welsh. So it's emotional.
Exactly.
But a slightly more factual than Braveheart and Mel Gibson.
So David, is there a final message for the viewers, those viewers who perhaps are stuck in a rut, who feel they've got a thwarted ambition that's been maybe buried for years, and they are flat and empty? What should they do?
I never thought I could walk away from my old life. And when I did, I realised that you can change things if you really want to, and if it's in your heart. And if you look back in 20, 30, 40 years and say, if only I'd done it, what you need to do is plan it, look into your heart and do it. It's possible. And you'll have cold sweats and you will worry, but you have more than anything and anyone else in places like Africa and China. So don't worry about it. Just do it and give it a go.